Hey guys, welcome to Hunt for Games. We're going to be checking out my first impressions of Project Cars. Alright, first little background on my racing experience. I loved, back in the day, Gran Turismo 3, Gran Turismo 4. That was kind of the first I got into it. Dirt 3 I loved, Dirt 2, Dirt 1, loved those games. But didn't really, besides the Gran Turismo games, getting into real, like, simulation, intense racers. Alright, so as soon as you jump into the game, this is the first menu you're hit with. It's pretty self-explanatory. I really like how they've laid it out. You've got your career options on the left, solo quick races, online, which by the way we'll get to later, works so easily. Time trial, quick random, which I think is a pretty cool feature that I'll never use, but like I'm glad it's there. Options, which by the way, let's just take a second to go over some of the visual options that are available to you because it's freaking crazy. So I really like how they've broken this out. We've got our visual effects, which is like dirt on the windshield, heat haze coming off the concrete, how raindrops is all this stuff that, like, if you just are annoyed, you don't appreciate that the visual change, you're just like, I wish I could just see the track, see the cars, you can turn it all off. I think that's really cool. These effects usually are just kind of standard on no matter what you do. And I'm really glad to see that there are options you can turn on or off. I'll always leave them on because I think that stuff's really cool, but nice to see the options. Performance. Tons of options here. All your standard graphical effects for any PC game. This is not toned down in any way. In fact, the anti-aliasing options are not only broken out into FXAA, SMAA, and regular anti-aliasing, which I have not seen in any, not in any, but not in every PC game, that there are three separate types. Usually it's FXAA and then others, but SMAA is a separate one. It's very interesting. I don't even know what DS2X, I don't know what the DS range of anti-aliasing is. I know what MSA multi-sampling and the high version of that, but I have no idea what these are. They are intensive. I haven't really been using them much, but it's great to see this level of detail in the options that you have. But this window right here is the bane of my existence. Please just start the game to view affected changes. This is with any significant change to the graphics options. And I hate when this happens in video games. Because I like to change stuff, quick see how it's affecting the frame rate, how high can I go, maybe turn on some rain, quick race around. But anytime you change anything, you've got to restart the whole game. So it's been a huge pain in the ass to really dial in like what the system is capable of. And I think that's a huge letdown on the developer's part. I haven't seen this in a long time, and it kind of sucks. So for the rest of the options, we've got camera options, which are really detailed. Depending on which camera view you prefer when you're racing, you can change the field of view for any of them. I think that's amazing and really fantastic. They've even got different movement settings that you can tweak for the helmet cam. I don't like the helmet cam only because when you're going into a turn, it looks into the turn. I think Need for Speed Shift 2 maybe was like the first game to do that, and everyone thought it was crazy. But I think it's a really cool viewpoint, but it's annoying when it turns in. I may try turning these off, turn off the helmet leaning entirely. Can I do that? Probably. Look, yeah, zero helmet leaning, or maybe just a little bit. The point is that it's great that those options are there. If you don't like it, you can turn it off, and that's amazing. Really, again, the amount of features and the way you can tweak this, really detailed. Finally, I'm going to quick touch on gameplay and controls. Gameplay, these are perfect for any kind of racer. Steering assistance, braking assistance, I always leave those off because I feel like I'm not even racing, but it's great that the options are there. Driving assist allowed. I had to leave all these on. We'll get to this later, but I'm a terrible racing simulation racer. I need all the stability traction control I can possibly get. I don't think it really inhibits your experience with the game. I just think they're useful. Performance impacting, visual only off for the damage when you crash your car. I might turn this down to visual only, because I do tend to crash, and it kind of ruins the rest of my race. I've been doing performance impacting, full damage. The first race, I hit a wall, and a tire fell off, and I was just done. It let me keep trying. I kind of like limped around for like 20 feet or so, but I don't want to play a racer to remind me constantly of how bad I am at racing, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Other features like mechanical failure, you can just have the engine just fail on you if you push it too hard. Tire wear, fuel usage, all important in a racing simulator like this. I have them to slow because while I appreciate that they're there, I don't love the idea of constantly just worrying about these kind of features when I'm trying to just enjoy playing a game. But there are plenty of people out there that I'm sure love that they can turn on tire wear to like a normal, realistic tire wear. Have to stop into the pits and get those changed, and you know that really affects your gameplay. That's awesome that it's there. Let's take a quick second to talk about some of these career options, because I think it's one of the better aspects of the game I've played so far. Solo works great, but it doesn't really grab you because each race is individual. Whereas career, you're really jumping into the life of a race car driver, and it's the most unique experience I've ever had with a racing game. This is where they've really gone above and beyond. So we have all these different tiers and types of races, and I haven't even begun to do all of them. I started with Kart 1, which I did finish a full season of that, and it was a great time. And then I've tried a little bit of the touring. So how it works is when you set up a new game, if you say, I've played millions of racing games, I don't want to go through the lowest of the low, I don't want to drive at 80 miles an hour like I'm going around to like pick up groceries. I want to go straight to the endurance series, I want to do 50 laps, I want it to take an hour per race. You can jump right into that, and I think that's so cool. You can just say, I'm at this level, I want to start my new game here. Or, you know, you can start at Kart 1, and as you successfully get first or second and you get podiums in more and more races, you get offers from other teams that are like, hey, we want you to start trying to do our Superkart career after like a season. And it's really cool that you can just move up normally like that, or just jump into whatever season you want. Having said that, fuck the Superkart, because seriously, whoever came up with that is a piece of crap. I couldn't finish the first race. I just kept spinning out. I take that back. I finished the first race and I lost. I got like 6th. It's so hard to keep this thing under control. I don't think I'm actually very good at simulation racing. So yeah, I figured I'd start at the bottom rung, Kart 1, and thank God I did. This game will not hold your hand. I don't know how many times I can say that, unless you tell it to, and if you say you want to have full control over the steering wheel, and the acceleration and deceleration, then you will, and you will crash. You will crash over and over again unless you really know what you're doing as far as racing goes, and I did not. I still don't. I'm still terrible. But Kart 1 was a lot of fun. It really introduces you to a lot of the aspects of racing, you know, overtakes and staying on the track, which sounds stupid, but like I would cut the track all the time because I'm just used to racing games where you just have to win. You just have to finish first, and you know, your pit guy will get on the on the phone and yell at you and be like, hey, you just got a warning for cutting the track. And although I know that's like it's not something I wasn't aware of, but it's still kind of jarring for that to actually happen while you're trying to play the game. Now, kart racing is something I was unaware of. I didn't know that this was a sport that took place, and apparently it's where a lot of racers start as kids, because you know, you can't just jump into an F1 car and expect to be amazing at it, which makes sense. I just think it's cool. Just like in real life, it's a great way to get introduced to some of the ideas of racing in something that doesn't go 180 miles an hour and with the weight that can spin you across the track. Although you can spin out pretty easily in these too. But the way that this game handles each race is hilariously awesome. When you podium, when you win, you'll see this little like fake social media Twitter on the right that's saying like, great job, like, oh my god, I knew he would win, like, he is the best. But you see like headlines from newspapers that say, oh, so-and-so wins, really making great strides, and the way they did it really makes sense. You get a little audio clip of like, great job, and like, keep going, we're really excited what you can do for our team. But it's simple but really effective. Like, I feel like I just woke up after a race the next morning and like picked up a newspaper and it's like, oh, check it out, they've got an article about me. That's awesome. However, the actual races are also very realistic. I'm assuming, I actually don't know much about the world of racing, but you have a practice race where everyone's just kind of around the track and you're figuring it out. Then you've got the qualifying round, which determines your starting position, which totally makes sense. You can't just like say like I should be in first because I'm always in first. Like, this is supposed to be a simulation of how racing works in real life, and in real life they don't just say, oh, Mario always wins, he goes first. Like, you know, you have to do a race, but you don't always feel like doing that. I don't always feel like doing the race twice or 3 times if I do the practice round too. So they offer you a nice little option of do you want to simulate this race to determine your placement. And I was like, you know what, that's awesome. I'm really glad that they keep this realistic and you have the qualifying round, and it totally affects your podium score, but they still are just kind of like, but it's okay, we know you probably don't want to do it every time, you can simulate it to determine your placement. And then I simulated it and it's like, yeah, you're gonna be last, like, welcome to last place. Like, what? So, I don't know if maybe if I race more seasons and eventually it's like, wow, this guy wins a lot. Like, when it simulates me, it won't always simulate me to last place. But it is kind of frustrating that if you don't want to start out in last place and fight your way up to first every time, that you have to do the qualifying round. Because I fought from 20th place to like 6th, which I consider pretty damn good race, like, go me. But, you know, I didn't podium for that, and if I'd done the qualifying round and started at 10th, maybe I would have won. So it's a little frustrating in that aspect. I'm not saying it's a bad aspect of the game, but I kind of wish they did it different. Hell, with all the options they have available, I wish I could just say, hey, simulate my qualifying round, but like, just put me in first. Or 5th. Then they'll throw you at these things, just occasional like invitational events. We're like, pick a supercar, there's like 20 other racers, just have fun. But it's during your career, so I was like, oh, this is cool. So I picked the Aerial Atom. And, wow, that was rough. Jumping into a real car after doing just the regular karts for like a couple hours is kind of jarring. I did the qualifying round, I did terribly, I couldn't even move up a place. And then the actual race was in the rain. There are 19 other cars all going crazy. First turn, one like smashes into me, which is something I want to get into in a second. And I just kept crashing. I eventually just simulated at the end, like, said I accept my failure and lost. And they had this funny article afterwards that was like, oh, I think we know what went wrong there, right? Yes, we know where your mistake was. I'm like, because I'm a terrible driver? Is that what you're saying? Like, we all know I'm a terrible driver? But the other drivers can be aggressive, and it's my only fault with how the gameplay itself really works. The AI will just kind of knock you off the track sometimes. Like, if you kind of like edge your way into their position and they think that you're in their driving line, but they deserve to be there. One time you just ran me right off the road. You just kind of shifted in and shoved me out of the way and I crashed. And oh my god, that can be frustrating. If you've tried to do a race 4 or 5 times and like you're finally about to win or you're on your last lap and you're doing great and someone's just like, and clips you, and you're like, the AI was just a total dick, and you just spin out and lose, and you're like, oh man, I'm not really a controller thrower, but there have been a few moments where I wanted to just chuck this thing. So yeah, after my first career season with the Kart 1, the same company I'd worked for offered me the Superkart, but they sent me 2 letters. One was like, we'd love for you to keep going. The other one was like, we really want you to join our company. I'm like, do they realize I'm in the company? Anyway, so thoughts on it as a simulator in general. Like I said, first simulator I've ever really gotten into. Probably the most detailed I'd ever want to go. I can't imagine wanting more detail than this. The realism really helps you, feel like part of the race. You can appreciate every little bump, every minute detail of the track. Frustration can mount pretty easily when, you've been doing great and you just spin out. Which brings me to the one thing I miss most about arcade racers. There's no replay, which I think is one of the greatest things that they've added to racers in recent, generations of games, is that replay feature where you get 3 or 5 mistakes, and you kind of just like roll back the clock like 40 seconds or 10 seconds. It isn't in this game. And I get it, it's a simulator, but there have been plenty of other simulators like the Forza games that still allow you to do that, because it makes it much more approachable. We get it. We're not perfect race car drivers. That's why we don't race cars. We're playing a video game. It'd be nice if I could, you know, I was doing a touring race, 5 laps. I was racing for like 20 minutes. Minute 18, spun out, and I lost like with half a lap to go. I was pretty pissed. Rage quit, shut it down. Oh, that was rough. Little reset option where I could go back 10 seconds to fix that would have been really nice. I don't think it would have hurt the gameplay, and I hope that feature comes along sometimes because I know they're still doing updates. Other than that, a lot of aspects of the simulation, like I was saying before, the practice round, the qualifying round, I got tired of pretty quick. I don't want to do each race 3 times. I appreciate that the realism is there. I'm glad I can simulate through it, but I just wish when I did that I didn't feel like I set myself up for failure by immediately starting in last place every time. Can you simulate me based on the fact that I've won first or second the whole season instead of simulating me to last because I skipped it? I get that I skipped it. And again, the AI isn't perfect. It's really good, but a lot of times it seems like it's just sort of trying to maintain that perfect driving line that the computer knows it should be taking. It's not really reacting. I've seen a lot of times where they crash into each other and like explode around the first lap multiple times because I restart the game so many times because I don't have the replay option, and I've seen them just like, okay, we're making this turn, I bet these 2 guys are going to crash into each other because they both try to make the same turn. They're not reacting to other racers or me very much. It's mostly just let's all try to maintain that line. It's not terrible, it just could be better, and it's one of the not as good aspects of Project Cars so far. All in all, I'd say Project Cars is one of the best racing games I've ever played. It's got no qualms about totally slapping you up and just being like, you suck at racing, but when you finally win, it's got like a Dark Souls, like, oh yes, I did it kind of thing going on, and it's really awesome the way that you feel successfully finishing a race. I feel like an actual review of this game versus an impression is going to be tough because I'm not really sure when I consider it to be like done. I could go through every type of career, do a full season, I guess win first and all those. Would I consider it done then? Not really, because there's so many options with the weather and the speed and like how realistic you want the races to go. It seems more like a sport that you could kind of return to every week. Like if you really like to play tennis, you're just like, I think I'm going to go play tennis on Tuesday. That's what Project Cars feels like to me. It's that game where it's like, hey, do you feel like playing some Project Cars today? Sure, let's do a few laps. I'll probably keep playing the game for a long time. A couple times a week, just like, hey, I feel like playing a racing game today, I'm going to totally hop on Project Cars. And whether it's just for a goofy, like, hey, how rainy can we get it to be? And, you know, see if we can finish a race, or, you know, actually going through a career option. But within the first hour or two, I realized that I really enjoyed the game, and I can't wait to keep playing it. But I don't think that there's going to be an ending that's going to affect my thoughts on that. I feel like I could review it now, but it wouldn't really matter. If you're on the edge of whether or not you should get it, if you like other racing simulators, I definitely recommend it. If you like other racing games, you're not really sure if you should get into this one. That's a little bit more of a difficult question. It can be really frustrating. Without the replay option, you might end up getting pretty pissed off. I've already gotten pissed off and had to turn it off a couple times, but I still think it's a really incredible game and totally worth your time if you think that it won't frustrate you too much.
Okay, you've got a warning from the race director for cutting the track. Try and respect the track limits, keep it between the white lines. Okay, mate, try to catch up with the pack.